Hi everyone, my name is Richard Santoro and I welcome you to Third and Zen, the YouTube channel where every week I'm sharing a spiritual message to nourish ourselves, heart, mind, body, and soul. First, thank you for stopping by the channel. Thanks for checking out today's video. I do hope that this video finds you doing well. I hope that you're remembering how worthy you are of care for yourself, heart, mind, body, and soul. And I hope that you're finding that care. Again, thanks for being here. If you feel like liking, subscribing, sharing, all that stuff, it would be helpful. But either way, thanks for you. Thank you for being here. With that being said, let's dive right in. Let's take a moment and just prepare ourselves with a nice deep breath. Take a moment and just breathe. Take a moment and just allow yourself to just be still. Just be here now, be present. Bobby's in here, you might hear meowing. Hi Bobby, I'm going to do a message today. And let's get started with today's message, shall we? So I came across something on Instagram that I want to share. It was a snapshot of a tweet that somebody I follow on Instagram had shared. And the person tweeting said this: "My whole life." Bobby, what happened? Okay, let's start over. The tweet said this: "My whole life, I've been told I'm too much. I'm too loud. I'm too quiet. I'm too intense. I'm too direct. I talk too much. I'm too this. I'm too that. I got it. If you don't enjoy my company, don't keep it. I'm tired of shrinking myself down to fit into your idea of who I should be." Ooh, that landed so much for me. I really immediately, just the phrase, "I'm tired of shrinking myself down to fit into your idea of who I should be." I know, Bobby, I know. So I really wanted to share that in today's message. I wanted to share that and make it the heart of what I want to say. Don't shrink ourselves. Be you. We can be ourselves, who we are. We can be loud, quiet, brash, outspoken, emotional, impulsive, introverted, shy, private, guarded. We can be adventurous. We can be a homebody. We can be a creator. We can be a napper. We can be all the things that we are, and on and on and on. We can make mistakes. We can fail. We cannot be perfect. We can be ourselves, with others, with Jesus. And we'll talk more about that. Bottom line, just be you. As that person in that tweet said, be you, don't shrink yourself. Now, I want to add a little bit of a layer to this. I want to talk about maybe two more things to add to this person's thoughts of be you and don't shrink yourself. I want to talk about Peter, the Apostle Peter, for a brief moment, because Peter is such a great example. We get so much of Peter in the New Testament, so we can see how Peter is. And that's because Peter imparted that to the individuals that knew him, and the individuals who traditionally, historically, it's felt, wrote the New Testament, wrote the Gospels. For all of Peter's ways that we are given in Scripture, he's bold, he's brash, he's hot-headed, he's outspoken. He sometimes talks before he thinks. In all those moments, though, think about it. Jesus never tried to shrink him down. Jesus never tried to shrink Peter down. Yeah, he did correct. Jesus did correct some of Peter's behavior. You know, when Jesus was arrested in the garden and Peter grabs a sword, Jesus corrects that. The moment when Jesus wants to wash the disciples' feet and Peter steps in, Jesus corrects that. But those moments where Jesus corrected Peter, they often involved Peter interfering when and in ways that he should not have been interfering. So the only thing Jesus ever really directed Peter in, sorry, I sort of lost my train of thought there. Let me start that thought over so it's clear, because if I got confused, I don't want others to get confused. Jesus never really tried to shrink Peter. He only really misdirected him or not misdirect. I lost it. I'm sorry. Let's bring it back here. Jesus never tried to shrink Peter. He never tried to shrink the boldness, the brashness, the emotionally led, the impulsive. The moments where he did correct Peter were moments when Peter was interfering when he shouldn't have been, and in ways that he should not have been. The only time Jesus ever really did direct him, give him pointed direction, and not the only time, but for the sake of this message, the one time I want to point out that Jesus really directed Peter, you're my rock, number one, and feed my sheep, love my sheep. So yeah, for Jesus, it was be you, Peter, be you. Be who you are. Be the best version of yourself. Be you genuinely and sincerely. Don't shrink. And also, be my rock. Be my foundation in this world. And feed my sheep. Love my people. Love people. So, bring it back again. As that person in that tweet said, be you. Don't shrink yourself. And I'm adding a little bit of Jesus to it. Do our best to be a rock. To be the rock for people. Feed Jesus' sheep. Love others. Be you. Don't shrink. Now, I just want to pivot here for a second. And I think part of the stumbling block, part of the impediment for us in not being able oftentimes to be ourselves and in often shrinking ourselves, I think it comes down to one word: expectations. Expectations. We often place expectations upon ourselves. And a lot of times those expectations have been planted within us by others. And a lot of times those expectations just flat out come at us from others, from individuals, from family, from people, from whoever, from society itself. They often, so whether it's from ourselves or from others, these expectations can be unfair. They can be misplaced. They can be unhealthy expectations. Be this, be that. Don't do this. Don't be this. Don't be that. Don't act like this. Don't live like that. Don't be this person. Be this person instead. Do this. Don't do that. Be this. Don't be that. Expectations are placed on us by others and by ourselves, and they again are very, very often unfair or unhealthy expectations that expect us to very often not be ourselves. And they are expectations that cause us to shrink ourselves. So yeah, don't allow expectations from ourselves or others to do that. Remember, again, going back to Jesus, people put those same expectations on Jesus, but he refused to mold and conform to those expectations. And he was wonderfully and beautifully and unapologetically and gloriously himself and would never, ever shrink himself. So let's follow his model and example, shall we? Now, I just want to close with 2 to 3 thoughts. I want to close with talking about my sister, and again, Peter the Apostle, and Elton John. There's a trio for us right there. My sister and I, my older sister, who I love eternally, we have a joke between us, a theological and personality joke, that she's Peter. We always joke, I always joke, and we laugh about it. It's an endearing, heartfelt, loving joke that she's Peter because she interrupts, she leads, she wants to be in charge, and she tries to help so often, maybe when it's not needed. And she steps in and she tries to control, and she's thoughtfully impulsive. And honestly, I wouldn't want it any other way. I love her and I love it exactly the way it is. I don't want her to shrink herself in any way, shape, or form. I want her to be her. I want her to be herself. Like Peter, all these things that I just described that we joke about, like Peter, it's all from a place of love. Trying to be a rock, trying to feed sheep, thoughtfully impulsive, caring, leading first with, I want to be there. Let's do this. Let's impulsive, but in a beautiful love-led, love-first way. I don't want her to shrink herself. I want her to be her. And with that, with my sister who's like Peter, with Peter being Peter, with them not shrinking themselves, with them being themselves, with Me wanting that out of Lisa, my sister, and Jesus wanting that out of Peter, and me wanting that out of all of us. It makes me also, interestingly enough, as I alluded to, makes me think of Elton John. I'm reminded of how he, Sir Elton John, is so gloriously and unapologetically able to be himself and not shrink. It's a beautiful, wonderful thing to witness and see. At least it is now, because it was not always the case for Elton John. It wasn't for a long, long time. The movie Rocket Man, it's a little different type of biography. I recommend checking it out. But either way, discovering Elton John's story, which has not been a secret for a long time, the story of his life, he is someone who, for a long time, was tortured and struggled in so many ways, and it took him to such dark places because of the expectations put on him from society, from his family, from others, from individuals, and from himself. These expectations to not be himself and to shrink himself down. And I'm so glad that he is able to, that he's emerged and he's blossomed and doesn't have to be that. He can be himself and not shrink himself. And it's sad. It's sad that we do that to ourselves and that we let others do that to us. The pressure and the expectations to not be ourselves and to shrink ourselves down. But I'm here again to say, don't. Don't do that. Be you. Don't shrink yourself down. I love that Elton John is so unapologetically himself and doesn't shrink himself down, especially after all his years of struggles and wrestling with those expectations and not being able to be himself and always shrinking himself down. I love that, and I want all of those who might be listening, all of those who endure struggles to see his example and the examples of others and the examples of others to know and the examples of Jesus to know. Be you. Don't shrink yourself down. And as I'm talking about Elton John on this topic, I'm reminded of his song, not one of his bigger, more popular songs, but people might know it, Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatters. I love it. It talks about New York City in the 70s, Spanish Harlem, and the line that always makes me cry, always when I listen to it. I thank the Lord that there are people out there like you. I thank the Lord that there are people out there like you. People out there like you. Like my sister, being her unapologetic, Peterish, interrupting, and impulsive rock and sheep-feeding self. I thank the Lord that there are people out there like you. Because as my beloved Mr. Rogers would say, there is only one you and there's nobody else like you. And I thank the Lord that there are people out there like you. So be you. Don't shrink yourself. Ignore expectations, unhealthy, unfair expectations from others and from yourself. And like Jesus and Peter and my sister and Elton John, just be gloriously and unapologetically you, and don't shrink yourself. Don't shrink yourself. Be you. And I thank the Lord that there are people out there like you. Thanks be to God. Amen. Okay, my friends, again, I want to thank you for stopping by the channel. Thanks so much for checking out today's video. I hope you found it helpful in some way, and if you know someone that needs to hear it, that needs to be this reminder to be themselves and don't shrink themselves and don't give in to expectations that are unfair or unhealthy, please feel free to share this. Either way, thanks for being here. I wish you nothing but peace, joy, love, and fellowship with the divine on your journey. I wish nothing but the best version of life out there for you. Thanks for stopping by. I love you all. Have a great day. Have a great week. Ciao.